What's up, Skull Nation? Are you ready for some massive Minnesota Vikings news that could completely reshape our future? Because after one of the most frustrating 9 to 8 seasons we've ever lived through, the Vikings are staring straight at a quarterback crossroads. And trust me, what happens next in that QB room could define the entire 2026 season. Let me ask you something right away. Do you really believe the Minnesota Vikings can afford to run it back with the same formula at quarterback? After everything we saw last year, the answer doesn't feel so simple. Stick with me because what ESPN is now suggesting might shock a lot of fans across Vikings territory. The truth is this: the status quo is not an option anymore. The Vikings know it. The coaching staff knows it. And deep down, we as fans know it too. So buckle up because we're breaking this down in full detail. Going into last season, J.J. McCarthy was the unquestioned starter. There was confidence, there was belief, and there was hope that he could take the Minnesota Vikings to another level. But hindsight is brutal in the NFL, and that decision now looks far more complicated. McCarthy struggled throughout the season. The flashes were there at times, but the consistency simply wasn't. His timing, decision-making under pressure, and ability to push the ball vertically left too many questions unanswered. And then came the injuries. Missing 7 games in a tight NFC race is devastating. When your starting quarterback can't stay on the field, everything changes. Rhythm, chemistry, playoff positioning. All of it. The Vikings finished 9 to 8, and that record tells only part of the story. It wasn't just the losses. It was how the games slipped away. Late game execution, stall drives, red zone inefficiency, these were recurring themes. For a team with playoff expectations, 9 to 8 felt like a collapse rather than a stepping stone. This wasn't a rebuilding roster. This was a team built to compete right now. And that's why the quarterback conversation has exploded across Minnesota Vikings news circles. Because when expectations are high and results fall short, the spotlight goes straight to the QB. Now here's where things get interesting. Reports indicate the Vikings will absolutely add competition to the quarterback room. That much seems certain. But how aggressive will they actually be? Are we talking about a veteran backup brought in to push McCarthy? Or are we talking about a legitimate threat to his starting job? That's a huge difference. Competition can mean many things in the NFL. Sometimes it's symbolic. Sometimes it's very real. And based on what insiders are saying, this might be more than just a motivational move. ESPN's Benjamin Solak believes the Minnesota Vikings could swing big. Not just safe, not just familiar, but high upside big. That changes the entire tone of this offseason. Solak pointed out that Minnesota reportedly tried to bring in competition last year, including exploring a move involving Aaron Rodgers. That tells us this front office was never fully comfortable standing pat. If they were willing to explore that level of addition before, imagine what they might do now after a disappointing season. That's not small thinking. That's aggressive roster management. And here's another layer to this story. Head coach Kevin O'Connell's influence. With the firing of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, it's clear O'Connell now has significant control inside the building. That kind of power shift matters. When a head coach has that level of influence, roster decisions, especially at quarterback, reflect his vision directly. So the real question becomes, what does Kevin O'Connell want? Stability? Familiarity? Or upside and development? One name that naturally comes up is Kirk Cousins. He knows the system. He's operated under O'Connell before. There's built-in familiarity there. But let's be honest, Vikings fans, would going back to Cousins feel like progress or just nostalgia? That's a real debate happening right now in the fanbase. Solak suggests something different could happen. Instead of leaning on familiarity, O'Connell, known for believing in quarterback development, might target a younger, toolsy passer. That means someone with raw ability, someone who can operate from the pocket, someone who has upside that hasn't fully been unlocked yet. That's a fascinating direction. Names like Tanner McKee, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis were mentioned as potential surprise trade targets. Each of them has physical tools. Each of them has question marks. Imagine the Vikings making a bold trade for a high-ceiling quarterback to directly challenge McCarthy. Not just for 2026, but for the long-term future of the franchise. That wouldn't just be competition. That would be a statement. A message that no job is safe and that development is earned, not handed out. And here's where I want to hear from you, Skull Nation. Do you stick with McCarthy and let him grow? Or do you bring in a serious challenger and let the best man win? Because this decision is bigger than one season. It's about the identity of the Minnesota Vikings moving forward. It's about whether we chase upside or cling to stability. The quarterback room is about to become the most fascinating storyline of this entire offseason. Every rumor, every visit, every workout will matter. One thing is certain. The Vikings can't afford another stagnant year. The NFC isn't getting easier. The margins are thin. And quarterback play is everything. This is going to be a defining offseason for Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings. The pressure is real. The expectations are high. And the fan base is watching closely. So stay locked in for more Minnesota Vikings news, because things are just getting started. If you're as fired up as I am about this quarterback battle, smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and share this with every Vikings fan you know. Skol. And if you think this quarterback storyline ends with just adding competition, think again. Because when the Minnesota Vikings make a move at QB this offseason, it won't just be about depth, it will be about direction. Are we building around J.J. McCarthy long-term? Or are we preparing for a full reset if he doesn't take that leap? Let's dig deeper into McCarthy's situation. Development isn't linear in the NFL. We've seen young quarterbacks struggle early and then explode in year 2 or year 3. The Vikings still believe in his arm talent, mobility, and leadership traits inside the locker room. But belief alone doesn't win games in January. Production does. The Minnesota Vikings ranked inconsistently in explosive passing plays last season, and too often the offense stalled in critical third-down situations. That's where franchise quarterbacks separate themselves. Kevin O'Connell's offense is built on timing, anticipation, and precision. It's quarterback-friendly, but only if the quarterback processes quickly and throws with confidence. When that rhythm is disrupted, the entire unit feels it. Now imagine inserting a high-upside competitor into that environment. Suddenly, every rep in training camp matters more. Every preseason drive becomes a statement. Iron sharpens iron, and that internal pressure can either elevate McCarthy or expose weaknesses. If the Vikings pursue someone like Anthony Richardson, you're talking about elite athletic traits and raw explosiveness. If it's Will Levis, you're getting arm strength and vertical aggression. If it's a surprise name, it could signal a completely different strategic pivot. But here's the key. O'Connell believes in quarterback development. That philosophy suggests he might prefer molding talent rather than recycling veterans. That could make the Minnesota Vikings one of the most intriguing teams in the entire 2026 offseason. And don't forget the locker room factor. Veterans on this roster want to win now. Justin Jefferson is in his prime. The defense has foundational pieces. The window isn't wide open forever. So how patient can this organization afford to be? That's the balancing act. Developing a young QB takes time, but championship windows close fast in the NFL. Another layer to watch is the draft. Could the Vikings package picks and move up? Could they shock everyone with a day 2 quarterback selection? Don't rule anything out. Front offices leak smoke before they create fire. If Minnesota is being tied to competition, it likely means conversations are already happening behind closed doors. And Vikings fans know this franchise isn't afraid of bold moves. Trades, free agent swings, unexpected signings, we've seen it before. The question is whether they'll be bold at the most important position in sports. Here's something else to consider: confidence. If McCarthy feels true heat behind him, how will he respond? Some quarterbacks thrive under pressure. Others press too hard and spiral. Training camp in 2026 could feel like a playoff battle in July. Every throw dissected. Every interception amplified. Every touchdown celebrated as a signal of momentum. From a fan perspective, it's nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting. Competition breeds drama, and drama keeps the Minnesota Vikings in the national spotlight. Let me throw this at you. What if McCarthy wins the job decisively and takes a massive leap? Suddenly, This tough 9-8 season becomes the foundation of a breakthrough. Or what if the challenger overtakes him and transforms the offense entirely? That's the kind of pivot that can change the trajectory of a franchise for years. No matter what happens, complacency is off the table. The Minnesota Vikings know that mediocrity is the enemy. And after last season, they're clearly searching for a spark. This offseason won't be quiet. It won't be predictable. And it definitely won't be boring. So keep your notifications on, stay tuned for more Minnesota Vikings news, and let's ride this roller coaster together. Drop your quarterback predictions below. Who should the Vikings target? And as always, comment, subscribe, and share with your fellow Skol brothers and sisters. The future starts now. Skol! But we're not done yet, Skol Nation, because the deeper you look at this situation, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just about one player. This is about philosophy. It's about how the Minnesota Vikings want to win in today's NFL. Look around the league. The teams that are consistently competing deep into January either have elite quarterback play or a young passer on a rookie deal who's outperforming expectations. That's the formula. Right now, the Vikings are stuck somewhere in between. Not rebuilding. Not fully established at quarterback. And that middle ground is the most dangerous place to live in the NFL. Financially, the quarterback decision will also shape everything else. A rookie contract gives you flexibility. A veteran deal limits your ability to build depth. Every move at QB creates a ripple effect across the roster. If Minnesota invests in a high-upside young quarterback via trade, that likely costs draft capital. And draft capital is how you build sustainable contenders. So the front office has to weigh immediate competition versus long-term roster health. But let's not underestimate Kevin O'Connell's confidence in his system. He's helped maximize quarterback production before. His scheme creates defined reads, layered concepts, and play-action opportunities. That means whoever lines up under center will have support. The real question is who can elevate the scheme when structure breaks down. Who can create when protection fails. Last season exposed that weakness at times. When pressure came quickly, the offense struggled to adjust. That's where improvisational ability becomes critical. If the Vikings bring in a more mobile, high-ceiling athlete, it could diversify the playbook. Bootlegs, designed rollouts, deep play-action shots, the offense could evolve. And evolution might be exactly what this team needs. Because defensive coordinators adjusted to Minnesota last year. Predictability crept in. Now imagine a training camp battle where both quarterbacks push each other daily. Reporters tweeting every deep ball. Fans debating every rep. National media watching closely. That kind of spotlight can either fracture a locker room or galvanize it. Leadership will matter more than ever. And let's talk about leadership. McCarthy was praised for his presence, his poise, his communication. But leadership grows stronger when backed by performance. If he embraces competition, studies harder, sharpens his mechanics, and commands the huddle with authority, that sends a message to the entire organization. If not, the Minnesota Vikings won't hesitate. The NFL is ruthless at quarterback. Potential only buys you so much time. Another wild card? Injuries. Last season proved how fragile plans can be. Depth at quarterback isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. The Vikings can't afford to have their season collapse again because of missed games at the most important position. This offseason feels different. There's urgency. There's tension. There's a sense that Minnesota knows it's at a turning point. And turning points define franchises. One bold move can ignite a decade of success. One hesitant decision can stall momentum. So let me ask you again, Vikings fans. Do you want patience or pressure? Stability or upside? Familiarity or firepower? Because whatever direction this team chooses, it will echo for years. We're entering one of the most fascinating chapters in recent Minnesota Vikings history. Every rumor will matter. Every signing will spark debate. And I'll be here breaking down every single development in Minnesota Vikings news as it happens. If you love staying ahead of the story, if you love passionate Vikings breakdowns, and if you want to be part of this growing Skol community, make sure you hit that like button, drop your take in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with every diehard Vikings fan you know. The quarterback battle is coming. The future is on the line. And SKOL Nation is watching. Skol.